Hello, all you beautiful, beautiful persons, people, human beings out there. I'm looking at you. I'm not looking in the mirror right now. I'm looking at you, straight in there. You're beautiful. You are amazing. You really, really are. Every single last one of you. Today was a good day. It's the end of the day. It was a very long day. Ended up at the hospital with one of our sons. Everything is fine, but yeah, we got to go and do that trip today, and so yeah, it's always an interesting day when you end up spending it at the hospital or going to different doctors or whatever, any kind of stuff like that. Especially with a hospital visit, though, especially ER. Interesting stuff. I was on like a completely different trip. I was on like a totally other dimension from usual, and it lasted most of the day. Might still be going on. I don't know. I've been here at the house basically by myself for the last few hours, and the kids are asleep, and the wife will be home soon, and I'm having some wine and talking to y'all. That's some pretty good stuff. Had a whole bunch of imagery go through my mind today, and a whole lot of just kind of breakthroughs on the idea of, like, I guess in the whole milieu of this spiritual path. Let's see. Of course, now that I'm talking to you, I can't think of them. I don't. I try not to rehearse too much in my head what it is I'm going to say, because it just ends up always seeming artificial, and I don't want to be artificial. I want to be genuine. I've thought about doing lists. Here are the 10 reasons that you should align your chakras. Or what are the top 10 things that people can't stand to see on YouTube? Or I don't know, something along those lines. But I never do. I don't actually do those things. But I was sitting there. Actually, this might have happened yesterday. Sitting there on the porch. Yes, it happened yesterday. And I was seeing consciousness as like a plane of existence, the onlyness of existence. And although it could be seen flat, it would be more correct to say that the idea is spherical and ever expanding. But even that, it misses so much of the point. Like, it's going to take so many words to write this out, and we finally do. But consciousness is existence itself. The very idea of existence. This exists both in infinite light, we'll call it, and then infinite darkness over it. And darkness, we're just calling it that for the sake of having something to call it. It's really nothing of the sort. It's the light and the dark are both the same thing, I guess, is how to explain it. I'm just kind of rambling. I don't know. I'm gonna get to my point here. Alright. So you have the states of being. So you have consciousness, which this is just the pure existence, likeness of a being. And then above that, you have the form of the being. And the form is that negative infinite that I was speaking of, or that we were speaking of, I guess. The negative infinite, that becomes the form. And the positive infinite, it manifests through the form. And it comes up like this until such a point in time where the form is complex enough to be aware of its own existence. And not only aware of its existence, but the existence of all other things. Basically, it's a sensory level, I guess. When enough, well, would it be sensory? Maybe it would be something cerebral. But I don't think so. I don't think it has to do with cerebral electronics at all. I think what it has to do with is the energy properly functioning in concert with the material. First and again, when I say I don't think, who is this I that's talking? Is it the I am? Or is it one of my layers? I think right now it's the I am. I think I'm the truth of what is talking. Okay. I'll have to come into mantra here. It helps if I forget that I'm basically looking at a mirror image of myself. Breathing in that good asprana. The very first level of being is simple beingness. It is nothing except for existence. It is all that is and all that isn't, and the essential isness manifests through the space of all that isn't, giving perspective to be all that is. So just as we see a rock, and we, in our awareness, we discover and we decide that this is a rock. This is a total separation of an individual, but the individual is a false flag in front of everything. Well, not a false flag. That's not the word we're looking for. The individual is a false front and a mask of the true self, which is a total unification. It's non-dualistic. The only thing that comes along to say this is this and this is that, thus creating dualism, that is the awareness. But more than awareness, working through the vessel containing consciousness, it's the self-awareness, and it's the self-awareness that constructs personality within or around the person, this costume that the person is putting on. And this personality is developed over an entire lifetime, from every expression that made an impression on on the person. Obviously, it made an impression on the person, and it became the personality. Now, this personality becomes defined with the person when the person understands, falsely, of course, that everything in this universe is separate. And why and how is it separate? It's because we can name it. Why can we name it? Because we've developed names for things. Because there was this kernel of an idea of of separateness. Maybe when the first aware being kicked the first rock, and it moved, and it seemed to move of its own accord. Maybe that's when this idea came about. Who's to know? At any rate, the idea comes about, and the person begins to feel like an individual, and begins to identify with the emotive feelings that well up within them that don't seem to be shared by the other beings around them. Of course, much of the time this can be due to deadening of senses, or not paying attention, or not having an emotive connection with another person. However, they have these emotive feelings welling up within them, and it gives rise to a thought. And the thought is because these feelings, these energies are misunderstood, and they seem to be either one of two things. They are either friend or they are foe. If they're a friend, then it's excitement that comes from it, and it's and it turns into a creative energy, and that energy then is released in the form of making friendships, or just spreading love, making art, making all sorts of good things in the world. But then when the same feeling rises up, and it is associated with a negatively charged thought in the mind, and the mind says, oh, this must be why I'm having this feeling, well, then the same emotional energy, the same emotive feeling that's rising up, instead of becoming joy through the expression of love, it becomes dread through the expression of suffering, to the expression of suffering. So this feeling comes up, and it has a thought associated with it, and as every person seems to come to understand in one way or another, or think this way, the thoughts that they have, this must be them. This must be this true self of them that is having these thoughts. But what nobody has ever taught them, what nobody has ever taught the thinker, is that he or she, but nobody has ever taught the thinker, is that the thinker is the number one spectator of the thoughts, not not one and the same, one and the same with the thoughts. Because if the thinker thinks that it is the thoughts, well, then the thoughts, whichever ones are accepted as truth, that becomes the definition of the person. It becomes the defining characteristics. It becomes a person who is ruled by his intellect, or a person who is ruled by her emotions. And neither emotion nor intellect are are, are pure vessels on their own. They take a pairing, but in order to have a pairing, one must be able to look at both emotion and intellect. Not so much intellect as thoughts. Intellect is more about the things that you know. Um, a child is born as pure consciousness. Consciousness then moves within form. That form looks around, senses things, and learns from the people that are around it. Learns that it is separate from everything else. It is its own thing. It starts to sense all of these things, and it completes a map in its own mind of the world around it. And it decides, based on many bits of data, it decides this kind of thing leads to a good thing, this kind of thing leads to a bad thing. And of course, good and bad are only whatever the mind of the person decides it is content with, can be content with, or is discontent with. If it's a if it's a happy time, it's because everything is as you think it should be, isn't it? And so it thinks back to unhappy times and takes these unhappy times and it wraps them up in a neat little package, and it hands the package to the mind, and it says, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Birthday, Happy Kwanzaa. It says, here, just have a gift, just because I like you. But the mind wants to control the consciousness, because it's through the power of the mind that that the consciousness goes unseen, and the consciousness still creates energy to flow through the vessel, but without the self-awareness of the vessel looking upon itself as being simply a vessel for the greater consciousness coming through it, then it has nothing. It can't look in it. Literally, that's what looking within is. Looking within is accepting and turning from all the thoughts which are exterior from the simple fact of being, the simple way of being, and just finding the space outside space and time. Tripping far out, right? So, unable to look within, then the focus becomes without. Starts looking to others. Starts looking to others for advice. Starts looking to others for love, for fulfillment. In fact, the connection with the person through their egoic movements and decisions of acceptance. It is I just lost my train of thought. It just went right by. I was walking along, I grabbed onto the train, I was flapping along the side, and then it was like, oh, look at the stars. The train was gone. Only by looking within can the mind see that at its own root is all of what is known as love, that place where everything is perfect, and there's no suffering. There's no competition. There's no need to be better. I mean, obviously that's what competition is, but it sounds different when it's said differently, doesn't it? And there's no need to be better than somebody else. There's no need to put somebody else down. If another person wins the lottery, good for them. Good for them. No need for a thought of, oh, I sure wish I could win the lottery. Because it's all my money already. All the money in the world is mine. What do I need with it? Leave it out there. Sometimes it's nice to open that tap and get a little bit, be able to go out and do some things and stuff, go out and have a good time, do some dancing, play some guitar, ding 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 ding. Interestingly, it's only when looking within, or it's only once being able to look within, that one can see that one can see that the light at the end of the tunnel, that actually there was no tunnel, that they were the light that they were chasing all along, and all the light of consciousness is then covered with a single layer, which is form and being, and upon that are all these other petals of the lotus, and they're coming up, and some of them have opened. The petals are the formation of, the petals are the formation of everything that is thought to be, thought to be a person. In my case, there's so many. Like, okay, one of my names is Jens. I was born in Santa Cruz, California. I am 39 years old in this vessel. I have been 39 years. That makes more sense. I've been 39 years in this vessel. I had no brothers and sisters growing up. Found out when I was in my 30s that I have a half brother. My late 30s, even. I was married at a young age, had kids starting at a young age, ended up having 4 kids, being divorced, now remarried, with 2 more kids. I do carpentry. I make music. I make art. I used to make hot rods. Would like to again. All of these things are the different layers of the petals, and the fabric of the petals of this lotus that is me. They are constructed of the impression of every experience that in this form I've experienced. The thoughts also, the feelings. The layers are solid when they are given the weight of truth. So whatever I think that I am, when this layer is given the weight of that truth, then it becomes like solid colored. It only becomes translucent when that particular part is fulfilled in its own negative material pursuit. So for example, and this works, all around for a lot of different people. A lot of people find love in another person. Sometimes it's sexual, sometimes it's not sexual. I will say, for the sake of this example, that we'll say that it's not a sexual thing. We'll say it's not a sexual thing. Because then that, if we say it's a sexual thing, then that rules out all different kinds of love. Ram Dass says it like this. It says something like, excuse me, I'm going to misquote him a bit, I'm sure. It says something to the effect of, I don't love you. You open up the place inside me, which is love. So a person who falls in love with another person, then if this person doesn't have the ability to look within themselves and see the light within already, then this person finds in the other person a mirror for that particular petal, that particular layer. In other words, this person can look within, so this person is looking without, and on some matching up piece, there's a mirror which shines light back, and this makes the person think the light is at the end of that tunnel. But as we said, the light is inside, yada yada, woof woof. So fulfillment of an egoic understanding of the self makes contentment in that understanding of the self, even though it's illusory. This is why one who is content with the possible absolute truth and absolute untruth at the same time of every idea of who they are. One who can view everything in their mind without judgment and without preference, and this person can truly look inside and bring all this light out. This person's layers are become translucent and iridescent, and they let the light flow through. And sometimes these layers can also be peeled off. This is what we might call an ego death. Ultimately, ego death in this spiritual path, it culminates in being able to open all of the layers, because the layers are unimportant. They're unnecessary. They don't even exist. They only exist inside of the mind. They only exist inside the mind of the thinker because of the input from others. So I am everything that you say I am. And I accept that. If you like this video, hit like, subscribe down below, leave a comment. Leave a comment even if you didn't like it. I'd like to see those too. And that's all for now. To be continued later. Shalom, shalom, salam, salam, peace.